Now this episode could actually save your life and save you hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, how is that possible? Today I'm going to bring on a special guest who is working through some major issues that came from Hurricane Ian in regards to mold. Now we're going to have on Brian Bland. He is the president and founder of iMold here in Southwest Florida, and he's got some really amazing nuggets that are going to save you in the long run when you watch the full episode. Let's jump right into it. So Brian, thank you for joining us, and you've had a what I call a remarkable past year. Yeah, big year. So to start off, tell us a little bit about who you are and the company.
Well, my name is Brian Bland. I'm the owner of iMold. Been doing mold and water damage in Southwest Florida for the last 28 years. Approximately 20 hurricanes under my belt. I'm very passionate about getting homes mold-free and dry, documentation for insurance companies, and then making the insurance companies pay properly with no fluff per se.
Yeah, and we've been friends on social media for a very long time, and I've seen a lot of your posts, so we'll get into some of that. Now, iMold is now the largest mold remediation company in Southwest Florida, correct?
Yeah, I'd say everybody's seeing our vehicles. We're at 18 service vehicles. We have 4 Kias driving around, estimating.
Sure.
25 vehicles total.
Okay, all right.
So we're a good size.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, with that scale, you've seen a lot of things.
I see a lot of things.
Yeah, so I want to get into, specifically, we had a major event last year with Hurricane Ian, and talk me through, you know, the response and some of the things that you were dealing with there.
Well, Ian was a whole different animal. I mean, I've been doing this since Charlie, which is just a little tight punch into Port Charlotte, no real flood, just roofs came off and stuff like that. Yeah. This is the first time I think I've experienced, you know, 4 foot, 9 foot of water rolling through the streets and through homes. Yeah. That's an anomaly all by itself. So that just had us change our game plan from normally tarping roofs and top-down drying to these, we called them muck outs, you know, where you're basically in there with buckets and shovels to get the mud off the slab, off the tile, starting with that so you can uncover the contents.
Well, let's talk about the stench of the muck out.
Whoa.
Because I was in muck outs. Yeah. You did that as well.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
Yeah, as soon as we got some test results back of what was actually in that mud, it was high mercury, right? There was fecal matter, there was E. coli, there was all these bacteria, like just wild off the chart. We tried not to smell anymore after that. We suited up immediately. We knew to suit up, but we didn't know it was going to have all that in it. Sure. And we started getting back test results, and we've seen thousands now, and none of them are any different. Yeah. We flipped over some tile the other day in St. James City under a stove for a client because they're just, you know, the insurance company just won't pay for the tile removal. And we took some samples, and off the charts nasty. Still, Stacky botrytis black mold. We were able to culture some bacteria and at high mercury counts. The bottom of these canals had a lot of mercury in that muck. So people weren't thinking about that, and they're touching that. So I'm expecting a lot of people to have some problems down the road.
Yeah, news to me. I wouldn't think that either. Yeah.
Yep. So that's what I mean, new. 28 years, I've never worried about mercury mud touching my teammates. Yeah. So very important. So I wanted people to know that too. Don't touch that stuff. What's under your tile, have a professional remove that and clean that up. That stuff is nasty.
Yeah, because you're referring to ripping out the tile, and what most people thought is, you know, the water comes in, and let's say somebody had 6 inches or a foot of water, you know, not the 9 feet coming through the house. Bottom level cabinets, baseboards, cut off 4 feet of drywall, a few feet of drywall, dry it out, and then you're done. If you had tile floors, obviously, if you have laminate or wood, that's a different story.
That's got to go.
That's got to go. But most people with tile floors are just thinking, hey, like it's concrete, right? Like it's good. And what you're saying is that actually is not the case.
Not the case. If you see me on Fox 4 News, Mr. Doyle in St. James City was one of the first ones. Insurance company wouldn't allow him to move a tile to look. He called a news team because he got a $12,000 basic check from the insurance company Citizens. And I said, Mr. Doyle, it's your home. I guarantee you I will pay for this whole room. It was his living room. I said, I'll pay for the tile in my pocket if it's not there. We've already opened up at that point, hundreds, not thousands yet, but hundreds. We were still new in it. And he took a chisel and hammer, went downstairs, got it, came upstairs, and he hit that floor, and he popped that tile off, and the stench. He whoa, right on the news camera. So then that opened a lot of people's eyes, and I just tried to preach that to people, that your slab is 100% wet, that tile is wet. So say you did what you just said, and you took off 4 foot of everything, and you started putting new cabinets in and new drywall. What happens is that slab is still full of water, bacteria, and mold, and it will come up. Right, water vapor is going to rise into your new cabinets, which are like a little dark cave underneath.
Yep.
So you put it on a wet slab, and that water's coming under the tile up through the edges of the property into your new walls. Then what we're doing and seeing now is we're having to go back and redo a lot of work because people went too fast. They might have done everything else right, but they left that wet, saturated slab and tile down with all that bacteria and mold, and it's coming up through the edges under your new material and roasting the home a second time.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
So from a real estate perspective, my side of the business, we're used to, there's a roof leak or a condensation pipe that leaked, and, there's some mold that needs to be remediated. But we're not very used to the scenario of underneath the tile and, what happened there. And you had... we always want to make sure our clients are super well protected, and this is why we're doing this video now, is to make people aware, create awareness about this, to protect you, to protect people from getting into a scenario where they didn't know. And you had shared a really great post on Facebook, and as we look through these particular photos, at first glance, this looks like a very standard Florida home. This looks like a nice home. Looking at photos, I don't see any issues with this particular property, but as you were alluding to earlier, there's more than meets the eye. So tell us a little bit about what happened here.
So what we're running into a lot right now, we just gave it a fun little title, lipstick on the pig. Right, the clients in that particular home, they live out of country, still Americans, but they live out of country, didn't really come back to see it. They hired a handyman to evaluate the situation. The handyman says there is some gray material on your floor, but everything looks dry. We didn't have a moisture reader, they didn't have an infrared camera. Homeowners, again, they're out of country, but they're like, okay, what do we do? He goes, well, I'm going to paint this all up and mop this floor, and looks like your cabinets are a little swollen. I'm going to replace the skins on the outside, and this should be good for you to use. Well, the homeowners had 4 properties that ended up like this.
Wow.
And so now they had a conversation. I understand. I found out later they had a conversation, husband and wife, and they don't want any more assets in Florida. Let's sell them all. So they didn't think twice. They got it on the market. It's a beautiful property, getting lots of feedback, and people are coming in, and there's a little odor. So some Febreze was brought in, some plugins were brought in. Yep. And that to me is a little telltale sign.
Sure.
So the real estate agent just is doing their job, trying to sell the property, not knowing, and then a buyer comes on and makes a deposit, and boom, they get an inspection. The inspector's savvy. He gets infrared pictures, gets moisture readings, and basically the bottom of all the walls through the new paint is wicking up water still through the slab. He puts his meter on the slab, and it shows 100% wet pretty much everywhere. Still hasn't dried because water won't dry through porcelain tile. You'd have to remove it. So anyway, we go in there, and we told the realtor, we said, hey, this is a flood house. Well, the realtor had no idea. Didn't believe, we're going to mess up their deal.
Sure. Well, and you're coming in as, oh, this guy's going to make money, right? You're the guy who's going to make money on the deal, and so they're
trying not to be.
Yeah, no, but the point is, like, their perception could be, hey, this company's coming in, and of course we've got a problem.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not a feel good.
Yeah, sure.
and so the realtor, says, hey, wind-driven rain only. There's only should be a little bit of damage here, and the client has a claim going. So we're like, okay, we'll write the estimate, and we'll just remove the baseboards to take a peek, and we'll remove the toe kicks to the kitchen cabinets and the laundry room and whatnot, and then we'll just know what happened. So the realtor was obviously not happy about it, but the client was, because they had properties they worried about disclosing, that maybe something's wrong here.
So the seller wanted to investigate it to make sure.
Yes.
That's good. Okay.
But again, it was slowing down the deal, and I understand that. I've been taking care of realtors for 28 years here. I do everything in my power to make the deal go through. I put warranties on jobs that shouldn't have them so buyers feel comfortable. But in this case, it was what it was. So we pulled the baseboard, and as you saw in those pictures, it was black. We called the homeowner, maybe we remove a little drywall to see what the inside, and we found water lines where the water had wicked up. So I'd say the home had about 4 inches of water. You can see a little mud line in there.
Wow.
But what we can see is wicking. So we had a plate of water and a sheet of paper, and it wicked up. So drywall does that. Every single wall we opened was black and green, and it was a hot mess.
Yeah.
It's not the only house. We probably have a dozen of them right now. There's one in Cape Coral. School teacher retired. She moved down. Right across from kind of Rum Runners area, nice area. And she moved in, her daughter's getting sick, her dog is throwing up. Like just throwing up all over. It's a healthy dog. She's like, I don't know what's wrong with my dog. You know, what's going on? She was thinking Roundup in the she was thinking a lot of things.
Sure.
So she had us come in, and she said, I think I have mold, and I bought a house with mold. I'm not sure, but the neighbors said the home flooded, all the homes on the street flooded, and they noticed that there was nobody demoing. So she talks to the neighbors, who, of course, that's their new neighbor. They care, and they say, hey, nobody really did anything there. We didn't see any dumpsters like our houses. We didn't see any pack outs. We didn't see anything. We saw it go on market. Maybe you should call iMold. So I went in there and I opened a pocket door. They painted everything in the house gorgeous again. I mean, you could barely tell without meters, but I found the back of one of the pocket doors had a 6-inch mud line across it.
Wow.
So this house had some heavy water in the front.
Yep.
You know, I'd say 1.5 feet from what we cut out, and in the back where it was a little tilted, about 6 inches. So 6 inches to 1 foot or 2.
Nothing was done.
The
Didn't know about it.
Paint, and in that case, we found out that the homeowner actually took some FEMA money, used it to paint, and put the rest in the old pocket.
Wow.
So this school teacher had to clean all her new furniture and some of her older stuff. She had to take her dog to the vet and explain it. It's bacteria and mold poisoning. Because the dog had toys on the floor, and you know, so there's a whole medical bill there. This is what I want people to understand, what happened to somebody.
The dangers of that, yeah.
She had to clean all the furniture and get it moved out. Moving company, $5,600. She had to pay iMold to remove 4 foot of everything in the house to find out what's wrong. Some areas, because it sat festering, the mold went inside all the way to the ceiling. So some ceilings, or some walls, all the way to the ceiling. All of her cabinets, all of her vanities, all of it gone. She had clean appliances that were new, because obviously they bought new appliances. Clean those, put them in the middle. So she had to move out for 2 months. She had to pay Airbnb. That's a lot of money. So by the time she paid the vet, she paid the pack out company, you know, to take her clean stuff, her Airbnb, paid iMold. Now she's looking at around $280,000 total when you add the rebuild of putting it all back together.
Wow.
So she had to get a lawyer. Lawyers going after inspectors, going after realtors, going after. And that's a hot mess, and it feels terrible. And she drained her savings account, so hopefully she gets something back, because you can't go to the insurance twice. The deal's already closed. And it's just heartbreaking. There's, like I said, about a dozen of those. Hers is on a worst case scenario. Some of the other people are got some money, and it's not as bad. I feel so bad for that lady. We cut her bill down profusely. Just trying to help her. You know,
and you feel for those scenarios. And so you had given an example in the first story about you had a savvy inspector who was doing the right things, and then it sounds like maybe the second one, we don't know that inspector, but maybe that wasn't a savvy inspector.
Missed it. I read the home inspection report, and there was no mention of any of that. He checked faucets and light bulbs and light switches, but not a real moisture inspection, no mold inspection at all.
So I want to talk about that, because the idea here is we want to create awareness, and then we want to be able to make sure that that doesn't happen to anybody. And so what are those things in the home inspection? So, you know, obviously as a real estate brokerage, we have tried and true trusted inspectors that we recommend, but, you know, we don't work with everybody. And so what do they need to be looking for in a home inspector so that they can avoid that particular situation?
Some of these were tricky with the naked eye. So the one realtor that thought it was wind-driven rain has been in the industry for a long time, very popular realtor, knows her stuff. It got past her. So it's tricky. That inspector, there was a home inspection done. there was mist, and then there was a mold and moisture inspection that actually caught it. So what he found was the baseboards were a little bit of material separation, but the big thing is he had the moisture reader and the infrared camera.
Yep.
So the infrared would show temperature variance, and it was showing that the walls were looking great, and then down towards the bottom we were getting some color, some evaporation.
Some of that blue, the bluish color.
Exactly. Then he took his moisture reader and put it right on there, and it lit up. And then he slid it up the wall dry, and as you bring it down towards the base, trim wet. And then, of course, once you put it on the floor showing it's wet, he knew exactly what was happening, because not just because of me. There's so many people talking about this. All the inspectors are now looking for this stuff. They know what's going on. They just need to put it in a report and educate the realtor and the buyer or the seller and say, hey, we got a little of this going on. It needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
But that's how it got caught. He had the infrared and the moisture reader.
Yeah, and best case, obviously, you find a home that did not flood, and so that's best case. But let's face it, there's a lot of nice real estate in flood-prone areas, and so there's that desire, and that'll continue to be the desire. So if that is an area that you want to be in, what do they need to look for, as far as documentation goes, to make sure that things were done properly?
Yeah, I would go to Google and look up and find the best mold assessor that you can find for your area. Not to belt out the names, I work with about 12 of them that I feel are really good. It took a mold assessor to find it, and then you got to get an estimate from a team that understands.
Right, because you're not legally allowed to do a mold assessment.
Right.
That has to be separate, right? So
yeah, it's the law.
Yep.
So Haley on my team, she's the actual estimator. Came out. She's second generation. Her mama did this all through middle school and high school, and she watched off the bus to mom's office. Okay. And it was actually a Serve Pro in Louisiana. I try not to use that name too much, but great people. And she grew up with it. And when she walked in and she saw the report and she used her own equipment, she knew right away.
Yep.
So you just need a good inspector and then a good estimator that understands and's been around savvy, and then put a plan together immediately.
Right.
And it's not to hurt anybody's deal. It's just to make the property safe for somebody's dog that's going to throw up. Or if a little kid moves into that bedroom, what it's going to do to his body permanently.
Yep.
And I know now people don't read about mold, but it can give you under 5 permanent, lifelong, take it with you damage.
Wow.
And why do that to any little kid?
Sure.
Putting profits over people, or just missing something, not uncovering all these stones, knowing it's a flood-prone area.
Yep.
Which realtors should know, like the neighbors, hey, our whole street went under.
Yep.
What's up with that house?
Well, and the misconception a lot of times is, I got a home inspection, so I'm all good. And a lot of people, if their agent does not properly communicate to them, don't understand that mold is actually a separate additional inspection.
Correct.
And sometimes, even if they do know that, they don't want to pay the extra fees to do that test. And the point is, for a few $100s, you can have peace of mind that you're not going to be causing harm to the family for permanent harm, potentially forever.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to buy those homes. Like you said, in those waterfront communities, we've remediated hundreds and hundreds of waterfront homes. I did all of the homes on Bonita Beach Road, straight down into Fort Myers Beach. Anything that's $10 or $15 million, I think I did 98% of them.
Okay.
They're all passing. They're all dry. They're mold-free. They all have a warranty.
Yeah.
Some people are keeping them. Some are selling. Just depends on who the remediation company was. And make sure you see what the post-clearance test was. Okay, you had a flood house. No big deal. I want to buy it. Let me see who did it, and let me see the post-clearance. Well, that looks great. You can read it. No mold found. Everything is dry. Buy the home. Great homes.
Yep.
I live in a waterfront home. I'm lucky. I'm at 9.5, and my street flooded at 9.3. Right, so I had 2 inches. But windows blew out. I'm not moving. I'm not leaving St. James City. If it came through at 10 foot and flooded my first floor, then it flooded my first floor. I would just make sure to do it right.
Yep.
And pull the tile and pull the trim and pull the drywall and sterilize everything, dry it, and put it back together, and pray that anomaly doesn't happen again, because it's so rare.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to get to. Like, the chances are, we can never predict the future. We don't know what's going to happen, when anything's going to happen. But that was such an unusual event, and it's what's what's great is that we have companies like yours who are able to give people peace of mind that they can purchase a property who's been remediated by a reputable company. The other component in it is there are a lot of out-of-state people who come to the area. You know, they're storm chasers, if you will, that come to the area, and that. Just for future reference, they're all kind of, I would think, gone for the most part at this stage. But if we're ever in a storm situation, just take care of the local people, because the local people take care of you. You know, the other people are just chasing the money.
Easy money, easy in and out. We're having to remediate and clean up a lot of those jobs, which is, I feel terrible for the people. You know, again, you got to clean the furniture and get it out of the room. You know, if it's a whole house, you got to pay a moving company. And I'm removing, you know, drywall 2 foot up because it's growing out the outlets 6 months later after a failed remediation. That's a whole nother sad case by itself. Hundreds of those going right now. Where and they're calling the remediation company from Ohio, whatever. They're not responding. They're not doing anything about it. I do appreciate the people that came down and maybe did the initial cutouts, the shovel and get the muck out, get that furniture documented. But other than that, that emergency first response, I think they should have, even if the lines were long, wait for somebody local, or at least a really good company that they have 5-star reviews from back home, hundreds of them. You know, I think my company has more 5-star reviews than all companies added together in my industry here. It's important, you know, to look for those reviews and read what the people actually say. It's a valued asset, and we're living inside that bubble, that house. You need that air quality good. So you can enjoy your life in Florida.
I couldn't agree with you more, and one of the challenges that people faced was they had urgency, and it's hard to blame people for finding somebody who was able to do the work and trying to get it done as soon as possible. But you know, shortcuts, they don't tend to ever work out. You know, very, very rarely do they. So if somebody is looking to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
They can call the 800 number. It's 877-771-1699. They can always email us at info@imold.us, brian@imold.us. Everybody can see me on Facebook. I leave it open to the public so people can kind of follow along of our situations and what we're seeing. So you can always find Brian Bland on Facebook and hit me up there. And I'm always helping. I'm even helping a nice couple in Ohio have a house down here and their house up there flooded, and the contractor's kind of doing it wrong, and I'm giving them some direction. So don't be afraid. I love to answer questions and help. You know,
to wrap up, we were talking about the, you know, not a happy business, and that people don't want your service. They don't want to have to utilize your service. But what I will say is we appreciate your service, because otherwise it would make our jobs a lot harder on the real estate side. If your company did not exist, we would be in a much worse spot. And so, you know, thanks for doing a great job, and thanks for keeping the public informed about how to, you know, live healthily in Southwest Florida.
Dry and mold free. Just remember that my company, probably the only one in town, we have a 1-year warranty on our work. So it's transferable to the buyer. When buyers are nervous and they see the M word, they get scared. Right? And then the company, they see, okay, you hired iMold and they got the best reviews in the land, got the best equipment, got the best team. Reading the reviews. And I get a 1-year warranty transferable. Now the buyer's ready to buy. They feel comfortable.
Gives it peace of mind.
We call the handyman in and we do some bleach and paint. There's no comfort to that. You know, there's no warranty to that. And I think as a buyer, you know, using iMold's a no-brainer.
That's awesome. Brian, appreciate you coming on today.
Yes, sir. Thank you.